Hey guys, Coach Justin here. Today I'm going to kind of break it down and go into the simplest way I possibly know how of showing everybody how to throw a four-seam fastball and what the grip is. I've shown videos of me working on my four-seam, of other players that I work with throwing their four-seam. But in actuality, I've never broken it down to show how you actually hold the four seam. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at the ball here, and as you see, this thing is called it's so many different things. Right here, it's called the horseshoe. It's called a C, a backwards C. There's so many different names for it. What I want you to look at and understand is there is a big part, which is the space in here, and a smaller space here. If you're a right-handed pitcher, these two fingers right here are the ones that are going to go across your seams on the four-seam fastball. Now, if you look, my middle finger is longer than my index finger. So I want to have my middle finger get across the big part of the C, the backwards C, the horseshoe, whatever you want to call it. And I want my index finger to go across the small part. Okay? It's a little easier to grip that way. Now you'll see if I turn it around this way and go across, you'll see how my middle finger ends up well past where that seam is, and this finger's just getting across. And when I say that, what I mean is this. If you see the seam here, okay, if you can see this here, I want to try to get my fingertips, at least my fingertips, across there. One of the ways we used to teach it was to say, get the line of your finger across the seam of the ball. Okay, and that's a real good way to get a feel for having that grip. Now, if you look, you'll see that my thumb, when I hold this pitch, is right underneath my fingers. It's almost in the middle of the ball. The more I move up this way, the more my ball is going to run out. When I keep it underneath, we want to, with this four seam, we're going to get it to go as fast and as straight as possible. This is our fastest fastball, and it's probably our straightest throw. This is why all infielders, outfielders use this grip or try to get this grip. Catchers, everybody in the field tries to get this grip in their hand before they throw the ball. It's the straightest ball you can throw. Okay? Anything off-center is going to move a little bit. So what I talk to a lot of my guys about is when you're picking up this ball, and you got to get comfortable with this thing. You got to figure out the way the ball comes off your hand. You got to figure out how this thing is going to go come off of your fingers. So if you have a tendency to throw more off of this finger at the end than throwing off of this finger, and you're trying to keep the ball straight, that's probably the finger that you want to get through the middle. And when I say through the middle, this is what I'm talking about. This right here is the middle of the ball. This finger, if this is what I get off the ball last, I want this finger to come right through the middle as I throw it. Okay? If my middle finger is what comes off that ball last, now you see it here. I'm cutting that ball right in half with my middle finger, and my thumb being directly underneath it. So, like I was saying about teaching my players, not many kids go out and pick up rocks and throw them around anymore. But, you know, if you go out and you pick up a rock, you know, if you pick it up between here and here, and that's your best way to throw that thing, or you pick it up between here and here, and that's your easiest way to throw it, call it a rock. You know, it is a rock. This is what we've been calling it a rock for years. So if you throw it off of here, off that middle finger, let that thumb be underneath. And some guys like to tuck the thumb like this, but get the feel for cutting this ball right through the middle to keep it as straight as possible and get as much rotation as you possibly can. Along with that, it's some people have a little misunderstanding when we start talking about things like that, because what kids will do is they'll start to push with their fingertips um, instead of laying their fingers across here and letting it come off and roll off of their fingers like this. I see so many kids who try to push the ball like this instead of letting it come off and get some good backspin. They try to push the ball with their fingertips to the target, and it's real hard to control the ball that way. You don't get the good rotation that you want to get going, and it's difficult to control, and you're not gonna be as effective as you probably should be. So the other part of this four seam, and I'm gonna move a little bit this way to show you. If you see, and now my hands aren't that big, but if you look, you'll see that my fingers are laid completely on this ball, okay? Like, I'm not squeezing it by any means. This is about as loose as it can possibly be. But I'm also not holding it loose like this. I don't want to just hold it in my fingertips. I'm going to lay these on here, okay? And I'm going to feel that ball back in, and you can see I'm holding it in my fingers like this, but I'm by no means am I squeezing that ball. So thumb underneath, little space in between here, but my fingers are definitely laid on top of this thing so that when it comes out of my hand, I can let it roll off. And like we said about getting across these seams, the last thing that I'm going to feel is going to be these two fingers getting this thing to spin straight backwards. The reason we call it a four seam grip, is right here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 seams spinning straight backwards to keep the ball going straight and as fast as possible. So if we're going to run it down one more time, it's going to be like this. It's going to be, for the right-handed pitcher, it'll be a backward C. Big finger across the big part of the seam. Fingers across that part. Thumb underneath, usually right under where this finger or this finger is, maybe even somewhere in between. Not a problem. You can tuck the finger or tuck the thumb and have it come off of those fingers, which is fine. A lot of pitchers do that. Tuck it underneath. I always held it like this. Here, get through the middle of it this way. Get your fingers to lay across it. Keep the space in between. Hold it loose. Okay, and let it roll off and create as much backspin as you possibly can. Took me over 8 minutes to explain a four-seam fastball. It's not a hard pitch to throw, but there's a lot that goes into each part of what we do as baseball players. So either way, if you have any questions, leave a comment or question if you feel like it. Check out the website, goodbaseballhabits.com. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.